Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Welcome to the Joe Chaffee Weather Show. It is Tuesday, the 21st of May, 2019. After what was a wicked severe weather day yesterday in the plains, we have another busy day here with regards to severe weather. You can see the Storm Prediction Center's map there right over on my left. And that is showing two working tornado watches and a severe thunderstorm watch that just went up a short time ago for parts of Kansas. The two tornado watches have been up for a little while, and they're going to be up through the evening hours for sure. Not quite as busy a day as yesterday. The dynamics today a bit less impressive than they were on Monday across the southern plains. One of our regulars, David Schwartz, I don't think he's on the board yet tonight, and he might miss this live stream, but he left me a message on my Patreon weather platform that no fewer than 27 tornadoes in the last 48 hours, and I did see something from SPC that at least as of midday, there were an additional 3 tornadoes so far for today. So it's certainly been very busy. We have a major storm working its way up through the western plains. And let's not forget the west side of this particular storm, because they have seen snow in Colorado and eastern Colorado. We're not talking about up in the elevated areas in the mountains, but down in the foothills and below. Denver got 3 inches of snow. And I believe this was their greatest snowfall. May average snowfall in Denver is actually 1 inch, and about half the month time in May, they don't see anything. Well, you saw 3 inches. And I wanted to also check with regards to the current weather conditions, because there was an interesting stat that was shown to me with regards to the record, quote, lowest high temperature. So it's 40 for this date. It's 40 degrees, and the record goes back to 1880. So we're talking almost 140-year record may go by the board if Denver can stay below 40. I'm trying to load the local weather service page from Denver to see what their current temperature is, but unfortunately, so is everybody else. We actually still have, for this time of year, a fair amount of winter weather advisories and some winter storm warnings up for parts of Wyoming and northwest Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota. The precip is pretty much done, except for a small corner there in northeastern Colorado. So we're going to get to the severe weather first, and we'll look at everything else that's going on the radar. Let me just say two things right up front. It is 6:02 Eastern time, so be sure that you check, that you remember that the radar are dated. So if you're watching this on a replay later on tonight or tomorrow morning, no, you're going to have to go to your local National Weather Service office forecast page. You can access that by going to weather.gov. You want to make sure when it comes to severe weather that you got the absolute latest information. The other thing I just wanted to give you a heads up ahead of time is that I did talk yesterday about the fact that the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which I do with my colleague Joe Rayo on Facebook, well, we haven't been able to do it since the beginning of May. May 2nd was the last time because of a technical glitch on my Facebook page, which I can't get them to respond. So we're moving the show to YouTube starting tonight, and the start time will be at about 9:20 Eastern time. So we'll try it tonight. If it works, we'll keep it here, and we may just wind up keeping it here permanently. It might make things just a lot easier all the way around. So that's the Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight at 9:20 on YouTube, and I'll put something up regarding that. So let's get started with tonight's weather. And we'll take a look front and center with the current radar This is, the signature of this rather deep low that is now moving through west central Kansas. Just look at how the radar echoes have that curl to them, that comma shape. So we're dealing with a powerhouse, and we're dealing with a system that's now probably at its peak or just passing its peak intensity. And from here on in, we're going to start to see this weather system begin to fill or weaken. When we say fill, we mean that the central pressure is going to start to rise as it weakens. The pressures go higher, and by the time this gets up into the Dakotas and Minnesota, it will be a shadow of its former self. Meanwhile, the thunderstorm activity today has been particularly strong over the state of Missouri and is at the moment. We've got a pretty nasty-looking squall line here that runs north-south of the state of Missouri, just pretty much cutting the state in half. The line actually extends down through Arkansas and into northwest Louisiana. Clearly, the southern end of the line is weaker than what we're seeing up in the north. There's also a second line behind it that is now moving through western Arkansas and northeast Texas, and there probably are some embedded strong thunderstorms in that second line and also in the lead line on the southern end. But the really strong stuff is on up right now, cutting the state of Missouri in half. And as we move up to the north, we're seeing some pretty hefty rains and probably even some embedded thunderstorms in parts of Nebraska there on the northwest side of the upper low. And in the blue and particularly in the green areas in northeastern Colorado, that is probably snow and probably some moderate to heavy snow still falling in some places. Denver is where you see these roads, these major roads that are drawn on the radar map where they cross. And right now, Denver is at 34 degrees. It is 4:06 Mountain Time there, so you got to believe that they're never going to see 40 degrees for a high. And here's just to give you a run of the late season snow reports. Ruthless Goat is also one of our regulars. You can access this by going to the Denver Weather Service website. But look, some of these numbers are incredible. 20 inches, 8 miles northeast of Black Forest, Colorado. I'm not really sure where that is. I'm just trying to see if these are some of the higher amounts here. So I'm guessing there's elevation to some of this, if not all of it. There's 390 different entries here. I'm just going to circle around Denver. You've got some 6-7 inch amounts nearby. Rocky Flats 6.5. Arvada 3.8 inches. Wheat Ridge 3.8 inches. 5 inches 2 miles southwest of Buckley Air Force Base. West Centennial. I have never been to Denver, so I'm not really too familiar with these towns. 6 inches of snow there. Fort Collins. In and around Fort Collins, I think there were 2 to 3 inches that fell there, and there's some 3 and 4 inch amounts locally in that particular area. Down near Colorado Springs, so this is where you see those big numbers. 8 miles northeast of Black Forest, 20 inches. 3 miles northwest of Black Forest, 19 inches. And 4 miles south of the Air Force Academy, south of Air Force Academy, Colorado, 18. And these numbers are just really impressive here. Up near Cheyenne, also seeing North Cheyenne, 7.5. Fox Farm College, Wyoming, a foot of snow. Amazing, isn't it, folks? And these numbers here in parts of, let's see, that's Kimball, Nebraska, 4 inches. Gering, Nebraska, 3.8. Really impressive. It's really, how else can I describe it in terms of what we are seeing here from a May snowfall? Does it snow in May in the Rockies? Sure it does. But to see it down, even down in the big cities like Denver, is a very, very unusual occurrence indeed. So let's run to SPC and take a look. I'm going to let's start by looking forward. This is for tomorrow. Which is probably the least active severe weather day that we've seen in the last week or so. Two areas of marginal risk start to bubble up, and one small area of slight risk in Kansas and Nebraska. Now here's where the folks in the Northeast should pay attention, because Thursday night into Friday, Thursday night in particular, there's a cold front. The plain storm is going to move across the Great Lakes. It's going to be weaker, and then much weaker, and then as it heads up into New England, it's going to get juiced up slightly. There'll be a cold front that'll swing through. Dew points, we showed you yesterday how the dew points were going to be shooting up into the 60s. So the SPC on its day 3 outlook is indicating a slight risk of severe for Pennsylvania, much of New York State, most of New Jersey, Maryland, and back through northern West Virginia and eastern Ohio. We also have a new area of slight and enhanced risk up for western Oklahoma, northwest Texas, western Oklahoma, and into Kansas. That's the same area that saw the severe weather just yesterday. And now, going forward on day 5, this is day 5, okay? But before that, day 4 is for Friday into Saturday, Friday morning into Saturday morning. There's what's going to be probably your slight risk showing up on the day 4 forecast. So as I said, you see it at this time frame, pay attention. And then day 5, which is Saturday, there's another cold front that'll be coming through Saturday night, and a 15%, so probably another area of slight risk being generated for Pennsylvania and New York State, although it is away from the coastal areas, and this is for Saturday. So potential's there over the next couple of days, certainly not like what we're seeing in the plains, but the chance that we could see some strong thunderstorms in the east. Now here's let's go to the surface map and take a look at what's happening. So your low, which is down to about a 990 low, it's probably going to intensify. The pressure's probably going to fall a little bit more before it peaks out in the next 6 hours or so, and then begin to weaken over the course of the next couple of days. But there's your low sitting in southwestern Kansas, so the occluded front, the point of occlusion in northwestern Arkansas, and of course the warm sector, Arkansas on southward. That warm front, this is analyzed as of 2 this afternoon. I don't have the 21Z map yet, but the warm sector had not pushed up into Missouri at this point, but I'm guessing that on the new map you're going to see this warm front being pushed up further north. 70 dew points running all up through Arkansas, from Louisiana and East Texas on up to Arkansas. And of course now on the back side of this low, you're seeing dew points down in the 40s with temperatures in the 60s and 70s across Texas and into Oklahoma. And this is as a result, of course, you're getting the drier air that's coming in on the cooler air that's coming in on the backside. Dew points in the 20s and teens back through New Mexico. And then you head up into Colorado right now, and you might be able to make it. It's hard to really make it out on that shot. Let's see if I can get a little tighter. But we actually do have some 3-star moderate snows being reported there in an area. I'm not sure what station that exactly is. I'm thinking it's not Denver, but it's not that far from Denver. And another one up in the northeast corner. You've got light to moderate snow still going on. Look at these temperatures, all in the low 30s, middle 30s, and in some of the warm spots, lower 40s as you get down into the southern part of the state. And I just noticed, again, not knowing exactly what this point is, but I'm guessing there's some elevation involved. You have a 4-star heavy snow being reported with a temperature and a dew point of 19. Just absolutely insane. Meanwhile, high pressure is sitting off the Florida coast, so you're having a typical Florida kind of day with temperatures 80s to near 90-degree readings up through much of Georgia, South Carolina, into Alabama, although the dew points are not overly unreasonable. They're down in the low 60s, which is still kind of uncomfortable, but it's not terribly uncomfortable. And then jump to the other side of this front in what was a really beautiful day here in the Northeast, and you're seeing temperatures in the 70s across, low 80s in the Carolinas, 70s through Virginia, And we had upper 60s and low 70s here. Pretty busy wind today, 20 to 30 miles an hour at times, even some higher gusts. A beautiful day, lots of sunshine, that nice high sitting over Lake Superior, another one over the state of Michigan. Just made for a really, really gorgeous day here in my neck of the woods, certainly eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. And we're going to have another one tomorrow, which is even better. 2 back-to-back days, 48 hours without a drop of rain. I think we'll probably have to go back to sometime in March or early April to be able to say that. We've had days recently where we've had sunshine during the day and dealt with weather systems that have been coming through at night with some showers. Not a whole lot of rain, but at least some showers. And that's been a plus because at least the day sides have been dry, but we haven't been able to string a 48-hour stretch of no rainfall. And I think we may be able to stretch this through Thursday afternoon. So some areas may actually go 60 or even 72 hours before the next round of showers. You noticed out on the radar that there was some activity going on in the west. Of course, you've got these lower pressures running all up through the Rockies and on up into Washington State. And the radar was showing some showery rains going on through California and even some heavier downpours and a couple of thunderstorms in the mix there too. And we're seeing the precip, of course, more precip back through parts of Utah, Nevada, into Idaho. Some of this is also in the form of snow in some of the elevated areas. And then back to our storm here in the plains as it wraps up. Hardly any activity at all going on in the eastern U.S. As far as the radar is concerned. Okay, so let's move you through this evening. If you're joining now, if you're joining late, just a reminder, it's 6:16 p.m. Eastern Time is the time stamp on actually the radar's probably about 10 to 15 minutes behind. So if you're watching this on a replay tonight, please make sure you go to weather.gov to your local National Weather Service office to get the latest information regarding what's going on and with respect to any watches or warnings that may be up for your particular area. So here's how it's going to play out. We're going to start with the HRRR model. There's your low in Kansas, kind of hovers around a 989, 990-ish low. This squall line is going to just kind of rip its way across Missouri tonight and into through Illinois. And as it starts to move eastward into Indiana, it does weaken quite a bit so that there's very little, if any, of this is left by tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, your low has filled to a 993 low in southeastern South Dakota, and you've got some rain on up into parts of Minnesota. There's still a little bit of leftover snow that we're seeing back into parts of Nebraska and Wyoming, but it's all done with respect to Colorado. And meanwhile, in the east, you got this nice high that's parked just north of Lake Ontario. The pressure gradient is going to be relaxing somewhat during the overnight. There's still a little bit of a gradient here tomorrow morning, but not nearly as tight as it was today. So it looks like we're going to have another very good day here with regards to the weather on Wednesday. And then we're going to start to shift our attention over to Thursday. And it's going to involve that plains low as it finds its way eastward. Once it reaches up into northern Minnesota, it's going to make a sharp right turn and move across the northern lakes and head on up into southeastern Canada. Now, there's a trailing cold front here for Thursday, and in the meantime, there's a warm front that sets up. That warm front's going to pretty much get through. There's not a whole lot with it, so I really didn't even include any precip. There's a little bit of measurable precip being indicated by the GFS. I suppose there could be a shower before daybreak on Thursday in my neck of the woods, but I think much of the day is going to wind up being a mix of sun and clouds. We're going to have a west to a west-southwest wind. That should help to try to warm things up if we get enough sun. That's the critical question here. And then you have the front that's going to approach and move through here Thursday night. And ahead of it, I think there probably will be some showers and storms. So it's from this, and the follow-up low actually does start to strengthen a little bit as it moves eastward. You've got the main low occludes out, and really a new center winds up forming and moving eastward, and it actually strengthens a bit. The pressure falls as it moves across the southern Canada to upstate New York by Thursday night, and then on Friday it's moving off the coast of Maine. So it looks like there'll be some storminess, maybe moving into New England, or at least some rain. And Friday could wind up being much like today was, with a gusty wind and sunshine and temperatures into the 70s. And then we set up for the holiday weekend. So in the meantime, by the way, you got more activity that comes into from the Pacific, and we're setting up for another round of severe weather late in the week in the southern plains. Although this does not look like what we're dealing with now. You're not going to have a wrapped up deep low going up into the northern plains at this point, but it will probably produce some showers and thunderstorms as we head into Friday. So if you are traveling in the Northeast on Friday, getaway day, you should have no weather problems really, whether you go up into New England or if you're headed south down into perhaps Virginia, North Carolina, and points south. At least with the trough, the deep trough in the west and the ridge in the southeast, that is keeping weather conditions on the East Coast reasonably tranquil. Now we're going to go into the weekend. Okay, so let's punch up the upper air and take a look at what's going on. And I'm going to start. This is for Wednesday night, and you got a fairly deep trough and a wrapped up upper low down in near Las Vegas. And in the meantime, on the other side, you have a strong ridge, that 591 height line. There's a strong upper high in the southeast. So that ridge kind of builds right up northeastward into southeastern Canada. Here's your short wave. The system here, if we roll it back, now here's your big plain storm. Wrapped up cutoff low, lifts up to the northeast, and then gradually starts to weaken and move eastward. It sort of separates itself. These two are kind of dumbbelling around each other to some degree for a short time. You see how one lifts up and the other one drops south? It's kind of like a dumbbell. They're dumbbelling around. The top part of it separates and moves eastward across the lakes and into the northeast. So that's your cold front for Thursday night into Friday. And then you're back to the ridge in the east, trough in the west as we go into the weekend. Now, as far as the weekend is concerned, the upper high in the east is going to gradually get flattened. And you'll notice if you look at the top of the screen, you'll see the blue shading come down. So that's the northern part of the jet stream flattening that ridge out. So there'll be a weather system with this, a cold front, a shortwave trough that is going to approach. You've got one that is not really all that strong that comes through for Saturday night. It's hard to even pick it out. And then there's a stronger one that swings through here for Monday. That would be with another weather front that will be approaching on Memorial Day. So trying to time these things out is going to be, critical. It's also, I'm thinking right now from what I'm seeing that as far as the Memorial Day weekend is concerned for my area, eastern PA to southern New England, includes New York City, Philadelphia, Long Island, the lower Hudson Valley, down through all of New Jersey. You want to put northern Delaware in there, you certainly can, or stretch it down into Maryland and D.C. I think most of the time through the holiday weekend it won't be raining, but if we get lucky, you could squeeze most of the shower activity to happen during the nighttime hours and keep the day sides dry. And I'm thinking that's how it's going to work out. But there's still some uncertainty through all of this. And that trough in the west, by the way, that upper low, here's your upper low down near Las Vegas that basically just lifts up northward into Montana and the Dakotas. That goes, way to our west. Another trough drops down into California and offshore and then swings eastward into the southwest early next week and starts its adventure as it runs up into the plains. We're looking at the new GFS, by the way, so not the old one. We're looking at the new one. So I'm going to be kind of curious to see, and I'm seeing it for the first time, so I'll be curious to see what it does here with regards to the weekend. So let's take a look as we get through Thursday and Friday. Okay, so we're okay. Thursday late thunderstorms, SPC, slight risk of severe weather. Friday looks good. I think Saturday, my initial impression was that Saturday, for the most part, would look okay. Here's your next front for Saturday evening. Looks like my zone is carved out of precip here until after sunset and doesn't really overwhelm us with showers or a thunderstorm Saturday night. I think the risk is there, but it looks like the precip on the GFS at least wants to weaken. Now here's the issue for Sunday. The frontal boundary, weak as it is going to kind of, there's going to be a leftover frontal boundary lying across Delmarva down through Virginia and West Virginia. It's very hard to find because of the higher pressures to the south and the ridge in the east trying to show a little bit of strength here. It almost looks as if the front basically falls apart. So if that's the case, Sunday dayside should be okay. I know you're seeing all that green from Pennsylvania westward. I would tend to think that would probably be maybe some scattered clusters of showers or perhaps a couple of thunderstorms in the mix. So you've got this old frontal boundary laying there. The big question is it far enough south or is it going to be a problem? Is it going to be a little further north and perhaps cause problems with clouds and occasional showers? I can't rule it out at this point. I'm just trying to be optimistic. And then as we move into Monday, model seems to want to suppress that southward, and the short wave in the north being faster, that next front for Monday passes by well to our north. So this would suggest that Monday's weather front may have very little impact, and that Monday might wind up being an okay day for the most part as high tries to build in during the afternoon and maybe some clouds left over in the morning. So hopefully if we time this out, showers maybe Saturday night, overnight, and maybe some scattered stuff Sunday night into early Monday morning before the front moves by. So if we go back to this idea with the front coming through Sunday night, Monday may not be too bad. So again, I'm going to just hold out in general that we will be optimistic. We're going to be optimistic. And if you're down in Virginia or in the southeast or down through Florida and, of course, and through the Gulf states, it looks like that upper high is going to keep things pretty tame through the holiday weekend, which is good news for you. And, of course, unfortunately, the West, the way it is, with trough in the West and another storm system here early next week, not nearly as deep as this one, or is it? Actually does get it down to an 88 low. It's just amazing. It really is. To see a trough like this time of year, this deep, this strong, to me, you see systems like this out in the west, late March, early April, middle April, but mid to late May, I think it's a little bit overdone, and you're seeing the outcome in terms of the cold it's producing in Colorado and Wyoming and through that area of the Rockies, the record snowfalls that they're seeing, and the severe weather outbreaks. The nature of how out of whack the atmosphere is exemplified by the amount of severe weather that has been produced, be it severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, or on the cold side where we're talking about snowfall. So this is very much unusual. Has it happened before? Sure it has. Is this something brand new? No, it isn't. Does it happen every year? Thankfully not. These are events that show up every, 15, 20, 30 years. And when you're talking about a situation in Denver, as I said earlier, you're talking about a record low high temperature today, if it doesn't get to 40, that has stood since 1880. So we're talking about almost 140 years. That's how out of whack the atmosphere is at the moment. So rather than go any further with regards to the long range, I think with the holiday weekend, everybody's got that front and center. We'll stop it here at this point with regards to the models. The one thing I do want to point out, yesterday we talked about Tropical Storm Andrea. which developed just about the time we were doing the live stream. NHC, the National Hurricane Center, upgraded it. It has now been downgraded. It was downgraded to a depression earlier today. It has now been downgraded to a remnant low. Now, when you look at this loop, what you're seeing, the circulation that you're seeing is actually an upper level low. The low level circulation was in a convective mass that is to the east, but has gotten so weak that it's gone. So all that you really have is just this upper low, just kind of steering clouds northward on the east side. The dry air to the north with that frontal boundary, if you look up on the upper right, you'll see that northeast southwest band of clouds. That is the cold front that moved on through yesterday, and it's well offshore, but it's acting as the catalyst now, and it's going to wind up pretty much absorbing all of this moisture as it moves out eastward out into the Atlantic. So we got the first name out of the way with respect to the Hurricane Center's the list of names for this season. This is the fifth consecutive year that we had an early start to the tropical storm season, and that is quite a feat. I could remember, going back when I first got into weather. I don't ever, I have to go back and look at the records, but you probably could count on a couple of digits how many tropical storms occurred in the month of May through the 80s and 90s and the early part of the 2000s. Maybe you could count them on one hand. I think I remember reading a stat that it happens, statistically it works out to about once every 9 years or so. So we've done it 5 years in a row. And I think in two of those years we actually had two storms before June 1st. The 1 year where we had the January hurricane, which was January of 16, Hurricane Alex up in the North Atlantic, and then there was a May storm that year, and we also had an April tropical storm a couple of years ago. I think it was Arlene. By the way, one of the things that we haven't really spent a whole lot of time on with regards to all the weather that's been going on is the amount of rain. And the rainfall has been excessive in many areas. There's been a lot of flash flooding. And here we have WPC's, the Weather Prediction Center's 7-day rainfall map for the plains. So add whatever's fallen, which has been considerable, and we're talking about another several to maybe as much as 5 or 6 inches of rain over the next 7 days through much of the central plains, the middle Mississippi Valley. Amounts start to tail off a little bit as you go further north up into Wisconsin and Minnesota, and then back westward through South Dakota, Nebraska, and North Dakota. But nonetheless, you've got a fairly large area that's going to get about 2 inches or more of rain over the next 7 days. Action also continues to extend out in the west toward California, and no surprise with the trough position where it is. And maybe about 3/4 of an inch to 1.25 inches or so for parts of upstate New York and northernmost New England. Otherwise, much of the southeast and Florida on the dry side, talking about 1/4 of an inch or less, and a bit of a break for a good chunk of Texas, except for the northwest, where you're seeing also a minimal amount of rainfall. It's funny how not too recently we were having, maybe going back to last year, the drought conditions that were going on in parts of North Texas, and I think Northwest Texas, and I think that is pretty much long gone with the way the weather pattern has been. So I'm going to come over to the chat board here. Let me just bring myself up full screen. We'll get rid of this little guy. Oh, come on. Go to the bottom. There you go. Okay, so nice to see everybody on board tonight. Scott Briller, thanks for hitting Super Chat. I really appreciate it. You don't have to, but thank you very much for doing that. I appreciate it very, very much indeed. Okay, Izzy D, I see you on board tonight, which is good. Joyce Mack, you haven't been on in a while. I know you mentioned before that you had chores to do, and you were going to come back to the live stream. So nice to see you here. Chuck Cardillo are keeping things under control up in the Catskills. William Uber, our resident Long Islander, on board. Johnny Quest from the mountains of Virginia. Good to see you here. Now you're watching other parts of the country swimming away as a result of all the weather that we've seen. Ryan Ford, nice to see you on board. Do I think Thursday's severe weather threat will feature thunderstorms falling apart as they approach the region? I think it's possible. I wasn't overly, the models don't seem to be overwhelmed with the thunderstorm development. Part of the problem is once you get at least east of New Jersey, there's going to be a bit of a southerly component of the wind. I also am wondering, how much sun are we going to get on Thursday? That's the bigger question. If the daytime heating is limited, we may only wind up seeing temperatures getting into the 70s, which might keep the activity down. But we'll have to just wait and see. Tomorrow, I think we'll probably have a better handle on it. Ruthless Goat, beef prices skyrocketing this fall. Yeah, well, you know what? That's I guess that's one consequence out of all of this with respect to the rain, and I wonder whether that will affect, crop harvests with regards to what they grow in that part of the country for corn, wheat, etc. going forward. If this situation continues and the weather pattern doesn't change rather soon. Jason, I got to go back and look at it with regards to whether 2005 was one of those seasons. They do start early from time to time, but I don't think any of them had any of those storms. A couple of them might have had some minor impacts to land areas, and none of them were hurricanes. I think they were all tropical storms. So usually if you're going to see something this early, you're going to wind up with a tropical storm more than anything else. I don't know, Izzy. I think they may come in like Thursday evening, maybe between say 7 o'clock and midnight, as they move through. I would say that would be the timing for this. Ruthless Goat, 1 million calves in Nebraska. Not a shocker with the way the weather has been. And you're right, that will probably send beef prices skyrocketing to a large extent later on. Do I think the slight risk will be upgraded to enhanced for severe? I don't think so. One of the things, in the Northeast, you don't see the enhanced risk very often. You really have to have an almost ideal setup. I just want to bring up. I'm going to go back to that. Let's go back to I'm going to go back to the NAM 3. Hang on one second, folks. All right, that's not what I wanted. I lost it here somewhere. Hang on one second. All right, so let me just get rid of this. Somewhere in here is my other window. And it doesn't want to come up. Why not? There we go. I got to keep my eye on the clock here, folks. I'm running out of time. All right, so. Sorry about that. Okay, we looked at the NAM 3 yesterday. So I want to take a look with respect to the dew points, because we are going to see the dew points change. So here we are right now, and of course we know how delightful it's been. Dew points in the 30s and 40s, believe it or not, and we'll still have dew points in the 40s and low 50s. Let me roll back here. Hang on, I got the wrong model up. Just a second. Oh, okay. So as I said, dew points in the low 40s and some 30s for overnight, and through the day tomorrow we're looking at dew points in the 40s. But take a look on the lower left. You're going to start to see those dew points shoot up into the 50s and 60s. So that's the forcing that is going on with the low from the plains moving into the Great Lakes. Now as we move into Thursday, those dew points, those 60 dew points, push into New Jersey by early afternoon, and then kind of climb up into the low and mid 60s. There's actually a couple of 70 dew points in parts of southern Pennsylvania. Notice at the same time, see, and here's the problem with regards to the warm front and this warm tropical air. It's going to have a bit of a fight here getting through New England. If you look at the the wind barbs off the Jersey coast and Long Island into southern New England, they're mostly from the south. So that's going to keep it probably cooler from coastal New Jersey eastward, and particularly for Long Island and southern New England. So that could be the reason why these dew points don't really shoot up. But in the meantime, you get inland in New Jersey, west of the Hudson River, you get into those dew points that climb up into the middle and upper 60s. So daytime heating is going to be really critical here, and where that warm front, how far east it gets before the cold front arrives. So right now, I would just sort of lean against the idea of an enhanced area of severe weather. Of course, now that I've said that, you know what's going to happen. But certainly to see them put up a slight risk would suggest that the dynamics are definitely there for some active thunderstorms to develop during Thursday afternoon and getting to my area Thursday evening and into the first part of Thursday night. I think they're long gone by Friday. And of course tomorrow, being that we're going to have a bit of a slack day with regards to severe weather activity going on in the country, and we will be a day closer, obviously, to Thursday, we can get into it a bit more and a bit more solidly with regards to the threat. You might, J. Von Perry, not impossible. It might get some thunderstorms up in New England with this. It's so weird. You say SPC put you at a slight risk in parts of northwest New England, and most of the occurred outside the zone. Well, here, for example, those storms in area, the slight risk area wound up. The southern end of that really didn't produce all that much. I was, the line that came out of the front from yesterday was very underwhelming, to say the least. Izzy, thank you so much. I guess between you and Scott now, I got a cigar for the drive home. Thank you very much. Ryan, I don't know about a squall line. I think there probably might be, more of those discrete cells, more isolated, or scattered cells that they'll kind of maybe try to look like they'll form into a line. But I'm not really overly enthused the idea of like a solid squall line of storms with this approaching front. Howard Vanderhoff, I'm good. Glad to see you on board tonight. Just about a minute or so left, and then I got to go. Mike Coolian, early tropical cyclone development expected in the Gulf of Mexico and on both sides of Florida. One of the things I would look for, Mike, is look at the position of that ridge in the southeast. If it stays more inland across the southeast and over the Gulf states rather than being over the Gulf of Mexico itself, it will probably create conditions of lower than normal pressures further south down in the Caribbean, and we may wind up, you might wind up seeing something coming out in that climatologically favored area where tropical storms form usually when you get into the month of June. Okay, I got to go. Got to cut it short. We are now getting up close to 6:45, and I got a TV show I got to do. So thanks very much, everybody, for being here. Mirtha Gunter, you're here late, but you're here, and that's always a good thing. Joseph Nurek, nice to see you on board. Robert Brown, good to see you on board as well. Frank Toko. And Amy, I did see you up earlier as well. Thomas Kellogg, I think the slight risk will get upgraded to, it's for the upper Hudson Valley. I don't know. I you know what? Tomorrow we'll give it a much closer look and a much deeper look, and we'll spend a bit more time on it. Okay, so remember, we're going to try the Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight at 9:20. Joe Gaffney, nice to see you back from the Florida Keys. Okay. Mark Gossman, how long will this California weather get? If you're out in California, you got that trough in the west, you still got issues over the next 5 days or so. I'm sorry to cut it short, but I got to run. Okay, so the Joe and Joe Weather Show coming up tonight right here on YouTube at 9:20 Eastern Time, and I will schedule it shortly, so you will get a notification. Thank you, Ruthless Goat. Hi, Erica Baker. And tomorrow we'll be back to a regular live stream, probably at about 6 o'clock Eastern Time. Just really quick for those of you looking for a more intensive weather experience, particularly if you're in my neck of the woods, but you don't have to be. Just consider my weather platform on Patreon. It's just $2 a month, and you get a lot of extra stuff, and you can message me at any time. Okay? So we'll see you hopefully tonight at roughly 9:20ish, right here on YouTube. Good night, everybody.